Additional aids and services are available to individuals with disabilities. To make such a request, please contact us by email, by clicking the Help tab in the PD portal, or at pdportal@tamu.edu, by phone, including Relay Texas at 1-800-441-7323, or in writing to Train PD, PD Portal Support, 4477 TAMU, College Station, Texas 77843. Both a transcript and accessible document of the content presented in this webinar can be found as resources in the course description. Click on the blue links under Course Resources in the description. When a link is clicked, a new browser window will open.
Welcome to Manager Monday. Our topic today is which test is best for my AEL program. I am Wendy Christensen, PD specialist with TCAL, and joining me is my colleague, Dr. Olga Escamilla. And we also have a panel of speakers representing a few different programs from our state AEL grant-funded programs. If you should have any audio difficulties during the session, go ahead and give the Distance Education Call Center a call at 833-498-2255, or you can send them an email, tx@distanceedhelp.com. As a reminder, our Distance Education Call Center is offering free tech support to you and your students. They're open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. They offer all kinds of support, and they can also come and give trainings. They can either come to you in person or they can do virtual. So if you have any technical support training requests, go ahead and get with your PD coordinator, and they will work with TCAL to get you some training locally. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Olga Escamilla for now.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me. Let me go over the agenda. Before we get started with our panel, we're going to review available test options just to give you a refresher on what's available. We're going to share the Texas Workforce Commission approved test training chart and where that is located. And then you're going to hear from our panel. So let's get started with the test options. So we have Best Plus 2.0 that expires on June 30th, 2025. If you decided to continue using Best Plus 3.0, then again, that'll be good until this coming year, June. Now there is the Best Plus 3.0, and that was available fall of 2025, and it should continue to be available for the next few years, at least I think 3 to 5 potentially. Then we have our Best Literacy, and that expires June 30th, 2025. You can use this one until then, but programs also have the option to use Best Literacy 2.0, and that was available July 1st of this year. The next series is CASAS, and the current series expires June 30th, 2025. The new series was available July 1st, 2024. So the new series is already available. And then CASAS Math Goals was also available July 1st, 2024. And I say that about Math Goals because we did Math Goals 2, because there was a Math Goals, but that is no longer valid. It is expired. So we took it off, but just know that there are other CASAS steps, but it's not listed here. I just listed Math Goals 2 because Math Goals is no longer available. Our next testing option is our DRC items, which is TABE 1112. So the current form expires again on June 30th, 2025. The new option is going to be TABE 1314, and those new forms will be available online mid-January. Now the paper forms won't be available until spring of 2025, and that's for TABE 1314. So right now you're using the current form 1112. And then we have the TABE Class E. Same for these. The current forms are A and B, and they expire on June 30th. The TABE Class C, the new form C and D online was available in September of 2024. So C and D is already available. And the new forms for the paper will be available spring or April 2025. So on this one, note that only online tests can be converted or traded for the new form. At the end of June, if you're still using the current form, which is 1112 or the Class E, A, and B, after June 30th, if you still have test administrations, you can convert them or trade them for the new form test. Then let's skip to WorkKeys. WorkKeys was available July 1st, 2024. I list the approved tests because there are 2 approved tests, workplace documents and applied math. And these are the 2 approved tests. I know that there has been mention of a certificate, but that takes another test. But these are the 2 approved tests, workplace documents and applied math. And on this WorkKeys, we have a group that is currently working on a train the trainer because it is pretty involved, but I just wanted to share that. That was available July 1, but we're working on a train the trainer so that we could get that going in Texas. All right. The last thing I want to mention is the Texas Workforce Commission approved test training. How many of you are familiar with this site here? What it is, it lists all the approved training and everything I just covered and more. So it talks about the test tool, the TOT and what's involved in that, the test administrator training, what you need to do to get your people trained, your staff trained to administer the test, then what's required as a refresher, and then what's required if you're going to do the remote option. So this provides a lot of great information. Just know that this exists for you to go in and look, and we revise it. This one, the last time it was updated was April 30th, but it's due for another revision. So someone will be working on that to get that revised. Just make sure you look at the update. It's on the website. Check out this table regularly for updates. This is where you're going to find the most current information.
All right, so we're going to move forward, and I'm going to introduce our panel of professionals that are here with us today. We have 3 guest speakers. Our first one is Tiffany Johnson with Victoria College. Tiffany Johnson has served Victoria College for over 25 years, and it currently serves as the Director of Adult Education. She has served in various AEL roles, including instructing, career navigating, test proctoring, and distance learning. Welcome, Tiffany. Our next presenter is Cavella Kirby. Cavella Kirby is with Dallas College, and she has dedicated 5 years to guiding students as the Career Assessment Manager at Dallas College. She holds both a bachelor's and a master's degree in psychology, equipping her with the expertise to help individuals navigate their career paths effectively. Welcome, Cavella. And our last presenter is Angie Mudd with Community Action, Inc. of Central Texas. Angie is the EL Civics Program Manager for Community Action. She has worked with Community Action, Inc. since 2004. She has taught ESL for 10 years before moving into coordinating and instructional coaching. So welcome to all of our presenters. What we're going to do is we're going to just ask some questions of each of these panelists, and then they're going to share with us how the testing works at their location. Our first question, each person's going to answer, but Tiffany is first. What AEL tests do you utilize in your program, and how long have you used these tests?
We actually have used the TABE test since as long as I can possibly remember, since I think I remember TABE 7 and 8. We have progressed all the way through to the newest forms. Now we're on 11 and 12, looking forward to the 13-14 version. We use mainly computer-based for in-person and remote, but we also use paper version when we have internet issues or any special accommodations. We also, for our ESL population, use the TABE Class E, and that's the A and B version, soon to be C and D in January, same as TABE. We have used the Class E since I became director in 2012. Whenever Class E was actually developed, we were one of the first ones that brought in that test. I think it was the same time BEST was changing. So we decided, well, we're going to make a change. We're going to move on with Class E as well. That's it.
Great, thank you, Tiffany. So Victoria College is TABE and TABE Class E. All right, Cavella, What AL test do you utilize in your program, and how long have you used these tests?
Hello, everyone. I am Cavella Kirby with Dallas College. We utilize CASAS. So right now we are utilizing CASAS reading goals and math goals too. For ESL, we are still on life and work, and we plan to move on to steps in the next grant year. We utilize TABE 1112 in our corrections with the paper version. For CASAS, we utilize that for both ABE and ESL.
Thank you, Cavella. Angie, what AL test do you use?
So very similar, we use the TABE 1112, mainly online, and we've used that since it was 9-10, not quite as long as Tiffany, but as long as I can remember, we've been using that. We do have some paper forms for corrections, but mainly we use the online. And then we use CASAS goals, reading, and math 2 for our HSE students, and we're using CASAS steps this year. We've been using the CASAS goals for the last 2 years in reading and math, and then we just moved off of Best Plus and Best Literacy for our ESL students and started using CASAS steps, reading and listening this year for all of our ESL. So that's kind of new for us.
Great. Thank you, Angie. Okay, next question. So now that we know what tests you currently utilize, what made you choose to use these tests? Tiffany, we're back to you.
Well, I will say that I think with the TABE, I kind of inherited that. I think that was literally the one and only game in town for a long time. So it was easier just to kind of stick with it, which isn't a very good excuse or reason for using that. But it was very convenient. And we also added the Class E mainly because it's very convenient. They're under the same DRC system. So anyone that's trained in one, it's very easy to be trained in the other. They follow the same testing protocol. And basically with our size program, sometimes we have to mix and mingle students together to make it more cost effective. So there's other advantages which we'll share coming up, but that's the main reason why we chose those tests initially. That's my first and foremost reason for choosing them.
Cavella, how about you? Why did you choose the test that you currently use?
For CASAS specifically, we chose CASAS because of how we track our students' progress, especially for benchmarks with our ESL students and our HSC students. I know Dr. Olga mentioned it earlier in regards to work keys, but specifically with CASAS, with our benchmarks on proficiency levels, we use CASAS with progresses for post-testing. CASAS has excellent reporting structure. That's one of the benefits that we utilize and help us to choose this assessment.
And Angie, how about you?
So for us, we switched to the CASAS goals. Last year, we were using TABE for our HSE students, and we switched to goals because it's a shorter test. It wasn't taking them as long to take it as an intake. And then our directors kind of felt like it was less intimidating since it was kind of the first test that the students got when they came in for orientation. It wouldn't be so overwhelming. This year, we switched from Best Plus and Best Literacy to the CASAS steps after some people went to the Best Literacy training and they didn't really like the changes that were coming down with the Best Lit. It seemed like it was a little bit complicated. It was going to be time consuming to grade. And we knew it was going away and that switch was going to be required. So then we just made the full switch over to steps for ESL. And then we use 11 and 12, TABE 11, 12 for our IETs and our TOEFL prep classes because it allows higher level ESL students to still be served. It is a much more difficult test. So we use that because there is the potential of them testing out of CASAS and not being able to be served. So we use that for our higher level classes.
Next question. What are the benefits or advantages of using the tests that you administer to your students? Tiffany?
I know that we've kind of mentioned this a little bit already about the length of the test, the TABE being a lengthy test, as well as the Class E. If you're not familiar with the Class E, it's for the ESL and it actually has 4 parts. So it includes reading, writing, but also speaking and listening as 4 separate tests. And the amount of details are very involved and it's very intensive. It's a lot and it can be overwhelming, but on the flip side, I think the best advantage is that those tests have offered us real clear results. The details are very relatable for the students, as well as easily shared with our staff. It's really a good tool to be able to show the students and say, this is exactly what you scored. These are the skills that you've mastered. These are the skills we're going to work on. So I love that diagnostic from both of the tests. We're also able to pull reports and share that with the staff so that they can drill down in their development for course objectives. They can do strategic tutoring with students. They're able to use the skills. Even one step further, I kind of love looking at instructional data. I don't know where that came from in my life, but as a program director, I'm looking at things overall and really drilling down skills that a group of students might be consistently missing. Is this something overall that we need to look at? Do we see more deficiencies in different languages or in different subjects? And I just love the amount of data and the way it's packaged so that it's easy to digest by our team from both of the tests, which are all ran under the one DRC system.
Cavella, how about you? What are the benefits of using the tests that you administer to your students?
I would say that some of the benefits of using the test that I administer to the students that I serve at Dallas College would have to be the locator that the students receive. And basically, what that is a 15-question assessment that the students receive before the actual assessment begins. And then it determines the type of assessment that they're given. Depending on how the students answer those questions will determine the type of test. A lot of the students, they come in and they're nervous and they're like, well, my literacy level is not that good, or I haven't been in school in so long. We calm their nerves by letting them know, well, you're going to take a locator. And based on that locator, this is going to determine how easy or how difficult your test is going to be. And then that calms them down. For me, that's a benefit. And for the student, that's a benefit as well. And then with our ESL students, for our low literacy students, that they have the option to have a level A assessment where they can opt out of taking that locator. For those students, that's also a benefit.
Great. Thank you so much, Cavella. How about you, Angie? What are some of the benefits for the tests you administer?
For us, the CASAs, it's all on the computer. We don't use the paper form. And I mean, this is both an advantage and a disadvantage, but I think it's been helpful to have it all right there. The reporting is instant. That's something we really like with CASAs. So as soon as the student finishes the test, you can pull their report and see their scores and go over that with them on their exit interview at orientation. It's shorter than the tape, so they're able to take it usually within a couple of hours. That's great. Of course, you can do it remote and in person, so that's valuable. I think a lot of them are like that now, except the best literacy. If you're doing the best plus, and you have to have them come into person for the lit test. We also like that the CASA steps is assessing listening, which isn't something that we were able to assess when we were doing the best plus and the best literacy. I would say that CASAs has great tech support. So if you do have any problems going on, you can email them and call them. They're available all the time. They get right back with you and they work with the coordinators or the teachers immediately whenever they're assessing. For TABE, of course, it's a more difficult test, so this is really great for IETs, and it is higher level. It does assess their math and reading and language at a higher level. And then, of course, you can do it remote and in person too.
Next question. So now we've discussed some of the benefits to the tests that your programs have selected. Let's cover some of the challenges. or disadvantages of using the test that you administer to your students. Tiffany, how about you share a little bit of the challenges with us?
I'm glad Angie brought up remote testing. We do it so much, I just didn't even think about it. I'm going to throw that under the disadvantages as well. Since COVID, we went to the remote testing option. So to me, it's definitely a benefit. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely an advantage. But sometimes when you are also offering that remote option, we've seen our students become very embracing their education, which basically is short for immediate satisfaction. Like, I want to test in 5 minutes. Why can't you just jump online and test me? It's kind of created this sense of urgency, and students feel like, oh, well, you should be able to do this anytime. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. We love the remote testing option, but at the same time, it makes our students think that they can just pop on anytime and get that. As always, there's going to always be some things that we wish would be better with our tests, but with the DRC system, we struggle sometimes with ensuring that there's not duplicate records, setting our students up. So there is that attention to detail. We have multiple staff members creating tickets and creating test sessions, so that can easily happen. And then students can also score out a range on the tape test. Although I understand how that works, it is a little frustrating to have a student that you have to contact and say, hey, you did score out of range, so we do need you to come back in and retest. So that can kind of be frustrating.
Camilla, what are some challenges that you face in your program for the test that you've chosen to utilize?
I think Miss Tiffany actually summed it up. If I could add on, it would be some of the compatibility concerns with the assessment, only because right now it is not compatible with some of the Samsung tablets. If you would like to use it on a Mac, you would need to run it in Boot Camp. It is compatible with iPad. It's very friendly with Google Chrome. But as far as Samsung tablets, it would not be. But other than that, it is very user friendly.
And Angie, what are some thoughts from you on this?
Just to piggyback off of what Tiffany said, I do agree that remote testing can give this idea that we're available 24/7, and that's not fun. But a little background about Community Action is we serve all of the rural counties around Austin. So we have over 200 miles in between some of our counties. Having that remote option is beneficial because I don't have to drive 2 hours to go test students. But we do have to set boundaries where we're not just testing all the time, because that can get out of hand. So I love that point. And that kind of is a disadvantage, that you need internet and computers when you're doing the online testing, not even just remote, but in person, we're doing the online testing also. And because we have such rural sites, a lot of times there's not good internet. And of course, there's not computers at every learning center or library or school that we're using that we have access to. So we've had to get some tablets and make sure those devices are compatible, and make sure there's reliable internet or a hotspot and everything's charged. So that can be a disadvantage, I would say, with CASAs. I'm mainly talking about CASAs. And then, as Cavella said, we do have device issues, and that can be frustrating, especially with remote testing. They just did a migration. It seems to be better now that they're on the eTest too, but there were a couple of weeks that were terrible. I would say it's kind of hard to show progress on CASAs. So if you're not using CASAs, the publisher recommendation is like 70 to 100 hours. You can't test before 40, but that's a lot of hours for a GED student sometimes. And as we know, sometimes we have to test before they acquire that many hours. And so that, I would say, could be a disadvantage. The training for testers and CASAs, I would say, is a little challenging or confusing. We've had to help them after they go through the training. The testing is actually really simple, but the training seems a little bit difficult sometimes. A lot to wrap your head around. I would say it's challenging for low-level digital literacy students because we're not using the paper-based. You either need to have some kind of device that's a touch screen, or they need to have some digital literacy skills. That's challenging. And then it doesn't, for the CASA steps, is reading and listening for the ESL students. So we're not assessing speaking, and that's something we've had to adjust to because we've always used Best Plus, which is assessing their speaking skills. And we are assessing listening, which we like, but we don't have that score for their speaking skill. For TABE, I think the disadvantage is that it is a long test. You don't get your results right away. So if someone does test out a range or they test out, sometimes you don't know that till the next day or a few hours later. You do have to do some prep time before you come to orientation or before you're doing progress testing, because you need to create the sessions, you need to create tickets. That system for us can be like a little sticky sometimes. Like if they've gotten a ticket, I don't know, sometimes it's challenging to get them in another session or something. So I would say that's kind of a disadvantage of the TABE.
Well, thank you so much, Angie. That's a lot of information and helpful tips and things to consider as you are deciding which tests to utilize in your program. Let's go to our final question. What type of decisions do you and other staff make using data from the tests? Tiffany, how about you? What do you think on this one?
So I know I touched on it a little bit already, but we do put a heavy emphasis on the data. Obviously, we need to, mainly because our students come in and they don't articulate very well exactly what they need. So we do use the test as part of a bigger picture. We obviously meet one-on-one with our students. We have our career navigators meet one-on-one. We review their scores. We review some of the skills that they've missed. We ensure that we write their levels on their printed iTech and send them away. This helps us determine what level classes they're in. And we treat it very much like a strong guide. When we meet with the students, we also get to get their perspective. Sometimes the students are very clear and they'll say, oh man, it looks like I bombed this, but really I was just nervous. This was the first test I took. They'll kind of indicate, oh, I rushed through it. I was going to leave early and I just kind of marked anything. Although it's a test score, we're able to combine that with the discussion with the students to determine what classes they'll be in. Obviously, the skills drive our instruction with our instructional lead, who reviews the test scores that lead to our course syllabi and identify what content standards we're going to pull for each class session. And then I love the fact that we wrap that up with post-testing and be able to pull that information. Our iTech shows their baseline assessment. It shows every test they take. Our students are learning the lingo to be a little bit more aware of their educational levels, so they know when they're making progress. And if they're not, we can have a conversation about what can we do and why are we not? Can we add tutoring? Can we add distance learning? How are we going to enhance your education to kind of move you a little more in the right direction? I always tease students when I advise, I say, okay, this is your report card. You're going to take it home and put it on your refrigerator. And they kind of see that as, this is good. I need to know where I am and where I need to be. And then we also can recommend GED testing based on what level they're at, and just encourage them to take practice tests or take a look and go start that path. Same thing with the trainings that they would go into for IETs. We don't like to set cut scores, but we do use those test scores to be able to kind of give us a recommendation of, I think with the nursing program, you might want to bring this math score up a little bit more, and we can revisit this in a couple of months. Testing definitely drives a lot of the decisions that we make in our program.
Cavella, what type of decisions do you and your other staff make using the data?
Ms. Tiffany summed it up. The only thing that I would add is that with CASAS, there were 2 reports that you can pull, as Ms. Tiffany alluded to, which is the individual skills profile that provides the percentages that the students were able to calculate during their assessments, and the score report, which has the Likert scale and can provide those results. And then I like that she mentioned that she added the scores to the iTech plan. I actually wrote that down when she mentioned it. I love that, Tiffany. We use the HSC Ready So we utilize that data source from the reporting as well. And any of our English language learners that come in that may be too advanced for our program, we utilize the resources through our continuing education program and walk the students through those steps and provide other options or the opportunity to join, maybe if they do not have a GED or some of our IETs, provide other options for those students.
Okay, Angie, you're up. What can you share with us?
They said most of what I have to say as well. Even though Tiffany was saying with the TABE, it's the same for us in CASA's goals. Of course, we use all of it as an intake to help them set their goals and their ITEC plan and determine what class they're supposed to be in and they need to be in. For the CASA's goals, if they test at a 5 or 6, which is the highest level, or they test out, then we fast track them, give them the practice test immediately. Also, we begin talking with them about our IETs and some of our higher level classes that we have, depending on their career goals. For CASA steps, this is new for us this year. So we determine what level of class they need to be in for ESL. We are hoping to get access to the teacher portal soon. I know Cavella mentioned they do have great reports for the CASA steps. We're using our instructional designers now to work on helping the teachers with the competencies and lessons, helping with that since this is the first time we've assessed and listening. But we are looking forward to being able to pull more data from the CASA's steps where teachers can have data about their class and seeing like an overall what competencies they're missing and they need to work on. And then, of course, like Tiffany said, with post-testing, this always helps us see if teachers are needing to adjust their lessons, if students aren't progress testing, addressing that, or if we're having low progress in math or reading, then we'll work with the teachers on that. And then same as what Cavella said with TABE, if they do test out of TABE, then we refer them over to our community college and work with them to do some transition since they're not eligible for our services. Then if they already have their HSE or whatever, then we'll refer them out to other services that'll serve them better. We are hoping to learn more about steps, but of course, all of the reporting and the data helps us make decisions about how to serve them best.
Did any program change their tests due to MSGs or lack thereof? Did anybody have that situation?
As a matter of fact, we not only did not change our program because of MSGs, but I refused to change my program because of the MSGs. I think that when your program is serving the students in the best way possible, those MSGs will follow. I know that we talked about it and I had a few people bring up that thought, like, oh, will it be easier to get a level on this or that? And it's like, no, I don't want to go down that road. So I just believe that if you're serving those students, it'll happen. That's my thoughts there.
Thank you, Tiffany. Cavella or Angie, did you have anything to add to that?
We haven't changed due to MSGs, but we are discussing and working through changing some of our intake process with the alternative placement with our HSE students and possibly using the GED ready and not NRS. I don't know if that really addresses the question because now we have that option for the subtest counting as an MSG. We haven't been able to transition this quarter, but we are writing some SOPs and we are thinking through what that might look like to utilize that GED ready test as an alternative placement for those that may have higher level education in their country, or they may have already passed a couple of subjects. So we haven't changed because of it, but we are thinking differently this year.
How do you share test scores or EFLs of the students who took the test with instructors? Do you share that information? And if you do, how do you do it?
I know that our coordinators, before every class, we put together a instructor packet. So The instructors will have a packet with their sign-in sheets and test scores for every student in their class. And then as the assessment manager, I communicate test scores with the students whenever the students schedule appointments via bookings. And so I follow up with the students after their appointments and have follow-up appointments with them regarding their scores as well. But as far as if the students actually are on the schedule and registered for a class, they are included in that instructor packet.
Tiffany or Angie, do you want to add how you share information with instructors?
This year, we've moved to a new system, Connectable, and that has a student dashboard. And so we've added all of our scores into Connectable, and then teachers can pull their class roster and see all of their students, and their scores are on the student dashboard. Before, we've done kind of what Cavella said, we've made a contact list with all of the students and their assessments on there, so that teachers could see where their students were testing in. I'm hoping that the teacher portal for CASAS, apparently you can create classes and then the scores are there and teachers can pull class reports, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Tiffany, anything to add?
We have it structured a little differently, although there have been situations where if we have, for example, a fast track class, and we'll pull individual score sheets and diagnostics for each individual student. Or if we have something like a strategic instruction class or something, a strategic tutoring, we'll pull the actual scores. But for the most part, I have our system structured a little differently, and we rely a lot on the instructional leads to kind of absorb that information and to level the classes so that the instructors aren't so much the ones deciding what they're teaching. It's very much a team effort. And we find that way it helps a little bit better to scaffold, especially in the math, where the skills build from a level 1 to a 2 to a 3. And then we kind of keep it a little bit more with the content standards aligned with each of the different levels of classes. So it's kind of filtered for the instructors. That's helpful because my part-time instructors, they only get paid the hours they work part-time, and they mostly have other jobs, so they don't have a lot of time to invest. So it's kind of pre-filtered by an instructional coach and then kind of fed through to the instructors. They kind of like that. They're a little spoiled now. It's hard to get the teachers to participate, but they know at any time that they can request scores or more information, and some of them do.
Was cost of the tests important in your decision of which test to utilize?
I don't even know how much the tests cost. So I'm going to say no. But I also will say that Workforce Solutions uses it for their eligibility. So we do share tests as far as, hey, I've got this student that needs a test. Would you mind? And so we kind of trade out back and forth sometimes. We partner together there on co-enrollment.
We buy them and we have to, so we didn't really think about, or I didn't think about it for that decision.
Thank you. That's an important piece of information for people to know. So thank you so much. Want to thank Angie Mudd, Tiffany Johnson, and Cavella Kirby for all of your great information, and we appreciate your time so much. Don't forget, Distance Education Call Center is there to help. If you need support with technology, a remote class, if you're looking for training, your students need assistance with DL, just remember that the DEPDC is there for you.
We hope you enjoyed this pre-recorded webinar. After you have passed the final test with a score of 80% or greater and have received your certificate of completion, please take a few moments to complete the course evaluation. Participant feedback helps Train PD at TCAL continue to provide high-quality professional development. To leave a course feedback, please go to the completed portion of your transcript. To do this, hover over the My Learning tab and select View Your Transcript. Click on the drop-down arrow next to the word Active and select Completed. Then, click Evaluate in the drop-down menu next to the course you just completed. Please note that your feedback is greatly appreciated.